Hi, this is Amy, and I'm here doing discussion two, week two, and the topic is the 504 plan and the IEP and the eligibility process. Okay, the eligibility process. First of all, a request needs to be made by either the parents, family member, teacher, the gen ed teacher, or someone in the school. They might be noticing the child has some deficits, he seems to be struggling, so we have the request. Once the request is made, we have to send out an assessment plan to the parent. And on that assessment plan, it lists what we will be testing for. And we cannot do anything with this child until that assessment plan is signed and returned. Once it's signed and returned, I, the SPED teacher, will put received on, and then we have 60 days to assess this child and get a meeting in progress. So the school psychologist and myself, we begin testing, and it takes about 3 hours. And once we do our testing, we look at the scores, we put a report together, and then we come together and we talk to the gen ed teacher. We kind of formulate a game plan, and a meeting is scheduled, an IEP meeting is scheduled. And that's where we will discuss, does this student really need an IEP, or do they just need a 504? So we're there discussing, and we look at, our school uses iReady scores, and it's we use iReady, we use teacher observations, we use parent observations and my observations, and we just lay it all out on the line, and then we discuss what the best game plan is. If it is an IEP, the student must qualify under one of the 13 disabilities that fall under IDEA. With 504, they can have a disability, it's just not as strict. So if it is an IEP, a lot of times we see a lot of other health impairment or specific learning disability. And then there's autism and things like that. Speech can be one of them. So we come together, and the team will consist of the parents or family member, the gen ed teacher, myself, admin, the school psychologist, and then any other service provider that would be offering services if we find that the student needs speech and language, or if the student needs OT, or even a behavior plan, then we would have the behaviors as well. So goals are created to support this student in the gen ed classroom. And not only goals, but accommodations. What can this child use in the classroom? Multiplication chart, number line, speech to text, text to speech. So those are some accommodations that we can put on. And then the services would state, like a structured literacy program, 30 minutes, 4 times a week. So we would decide how much time can this student afford to be out of the gen ed classroom. That goes into play as well. And then once everyone agrees on the IEP, if we have the IEP, the parents look over the documents, they sign it, everybody on the team signs it, and then the IEP is in effect. And that IEP rules how I plan my lessons, because I have to take this child's goals and I need to make sure that I am covering what he or she needs to learn. And the IEP usually runs for 1 year. And then we reconvene, we look at the progress. Do we still need the same type of goals to support? Did this child meet the goals? Are they still in need of special education services? So that is kind of the eligibility process. The difference between a 504 and an IEP. Well, the 504 is more of a civil rights act, and it came about to make sure that no child, no person could ever be denied access to a library, a hospital, a school that receives federal money. Whereas IEP falls under the Federal Act of IDEA. Both provide rights for the students with disabilities. A 504 offers accommodations, whereas an IEP offers specialized academic instruction. You can have, I think you could qualify for both. Sometimes the student doesn't need to be pulled out, or the specialized instruction, where they just might need to be removed from a classroom due to an allergy. According to the video that we were asked to watch, the ladies talked about one of the accommodations that would suit a 504 is a peanut allergy. the accommodation would be a special table in the lunchroom. Maybe if the art materials have some type of peanut oil or something, they would have to make the accommodations for this child to still participate in the activities and still have a safe place to eat their lunch. But they don't really need to be pulled out and come into the learning center. Like I said, a 504 is accommodations only. Their learning instruction does not change. Whereas an IEP, the learning does change, the instruction does change. It's accommodated. Instead of doing 20 math problems, they might do 5 math problems to show mastery. That's kind of the difference between the two. Now, the next part was an experience. So at the beginning of the school year, there's a gen ed teacher who every day, I have a student, he needs to be with you, send him to the learning center. And I said, well, wait a minute, there is a process. There's the pre-referral process. I said, first of all, it's not we, you need to reach out to the dean of students and you start the process there. Once the dean of students decides what the next step is, then that's when we're called in. So she was very worried that we were going to wait too long. But as soon as she said something to the dean of students, it was a matter of hours before we realized that this child does need some type of intervention. So an assessment plan was sent home, it was signed, and I'm actually getting ready to start testing him in the next few days. I had another experience with a mom who did not want her daughter pulled out for so many learning center lessons. She wanted her in the classroom. So we had an amendment to the IEP and we talked about a 504 plan. But then she realized, oh, wait a minute, 504 is not really going to accommodate the work for her the way I need it to be accommodated. Yes, 504s are all about accommodations, but the learning won't change from the gen ed classroom. So keeping her on the IEP, she was able to receive teacher notes, have extended time on projects, come to the learning center to take her tests, things like that. So she was able to see the difference and kept her in or on the IEP, which was the best for her. I think that having a 504 in an IEP, either one, whatever works best for the student is the way to go. The team really needs to come together and be on the same page. And I thank you very much. I hope what I had to offer is helpful and knowledgeable. Thank you very much. You have a good rest of your day, your night. You can see Piper back here, sound asleep, my partner in crime. Thanks, everybody.